Welcome to the Connection Central Industry Podcast, where real conversations meet real strategies. Each episode we dive into the industries that keep Australia moving, talking with the leaders, innovators, and everyday operators, shaping what's next. So settle in, turn it up, and let's get into it.
Hi everybody, Michelle O'Hara here from Connection Central. We're very lucky today to have Kirstee Copley from Goop Guys with us. Welcome, Kirstee.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks very much for having me today.
So good to have you, and happy 25-year anniversary for Goop Guys. That's a pretty tremendous achievement. Well done.
Thank you. Yes, 25 years.
Wow. So I know you've got a couple of different brands, but just tell us how Goop Guys came about in the first place.
So 25 years ago, we had, probably 30 years ago, but at least 25, we had a cleaning business doing builders cleans. And so we're out on sites and we're seeing like firsthand the damage that was being done to things like windows, floors, bench tops, that sort of thing. And my husband was like, there's got to be a better way to protect these, to stop them from getting damaged. Back then, they were using WD-40 and cooking oils and things like that to protect the glass. Particularly for us here on the Sunshine Coast, we had a lot of sand, obviously, because we're right near the ocean, and sand sticks to cooking oil very well. And then when the cleaners were coming in and trying to clean the windows, they would inadvertently scratch them because the sand particles there. Yeah. And so we were at a barbecue at a friend's place one night, and he was just chatting, as he does. He's a bit of a chatterbox. He was chatting with this guy and said, I really want to find a solution for this problem, and this is what I was thinking. And it turned out the guy that he was talking to was a chemist. And so, of course. Then that's right. They got together and proceeded to Goop.
Wow. And how long did that process take?
It definitely was a process. Look, I think they got a little bit cocky to begin with. So within about 6 months, they were like, yep, we've got it. This is it. Let's go to market. It's great. And so being that we'd been in the building industry, and Shane was also, he started as a chippy. So he had a lot of builder friends. We went out and did their houses first. So that was lucky because the first product did not work so well. It peeled up until about the 4-week mark, and then it just bonded and wouldn't come off. So we spent a lot of time removing the failed goop, and then they went back to the drawing board. So it was probably another 12 months before they had a product that we have today that works really well.
Good lesson. And how did you go from that to having a national franchise?
Yeah. So look, originally it was a business that, it was just mum and dad business on the coast. We were just going to go out and do that in our sort of area. Word spread, and we were having to drive to Brisbane and then Gold Coast and Harvey Bay and Bundaberg and those and it just got too much. And so we did for a little while have employees, but then Melbourne was like, we want people, in Victoria, and we want people in Sydney, and it was like, oh, hold on, how do we do this? And so we went down the franchising road.
And who made that choice? Was it either one of you or your husband, or did you get some influence on how to decide? Because obviously franchising is a big deal, isn't it? And sometimes can be a pain in the butt.
Yes, there's definitely time. No, to be honest, I really don't know. I think he always says that it's my fault that I did it. But to be fair, I'm not sure. I think we're at that point where we kind of sat down in a brainstorming session and we're like, how are we actually going to do this? What's the best option? And then we kind of wrote down things that we would want if someone else was applying it. We want to control the way that it's applied. We want to control the look of it, the feel of the brand, that kind of thing. And you could only really get everything that we wanted if you franchised.
Perfect. So that probably leads into why yours is obviously a very good franchise. You had to put in a lot of processes and systems and all that sort of thing, obviously, to support your franchisees.
Yep. So sometimes told I'm over-processed, but I do. I like structure and I like processes. So we do have systems for everything, right from, running the business, because essentially you buy a franchise, it's a business, you've got your own business, application, marketing, sales. So we've got systems and processes for everything. We have our franchise manager, Sarah. So she looks after the franchisees. She meets with them individually once a month, and then every quarter they do a big group session annual conference every year. So they get a lot of support that way. Obviously, they can call anytime they like as well.
Wow, nice. And so how many franchises are you up to now?
We have 15.
Wow. And the goal this year or for the next few years is two?
So we set a 10-year goal last year. So we've gone big last year, and we want 50 franchisees in 10 years. So we've got 9 years to go. So we're a little bit behind. Yeah.
And do you find who's buying these franchises? Are they people in the industry or, I mean, I suppose anyone could.
Yeah, look, we have a great mix, really. We have an engineer. He's actually our best performing franchisee, by the way, the engineer. We have
Interesting.
tradies, so we have ex-form workers, concreters, brickies, those kind of guys. We have 2 accountants who are for franchises. What else we got? We get quite a mix, through. We've got a number of women coming through now, which is interesting
Oh,
and great. We've got 3 women, 4 actually. Sorry, one of our Gold Coast areas just resold, and Beck brought it. She's a nurse, so we've now got 4 women owning franchises. I know, and they do really well. Particularly, like 20 years ago, being in this male-dominated sort of arena, it might not have been so good. But I think we've come a long way in that sort of space now. And, there's a lot of women trades out there now. So, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I was going to ask you that actually. Like, how was it, I guess, developing up the business from a female perspective? Like, you obviously had a very good husband-wife team, but any challenges in the start there that you found?
Yeah, look, in the beginning, I was kind of, behind the scenes. So my husband is great. He's a great communicator. He's great talking to people and building those relationships. And so he did all the kind of sales, direct sales and stuff in the early days. And I sort of just did all the systems and the processes, in the back end there. So I think that worked quite well, like we're very different people. And look, 2 years ago, I would not be doing this with you right now. He would be the one doing this with you.
Yeah,
So,
good on you. Good on you. That's excellent.
yeah. So no, look, I think back then there was just that little bit of, the woman kind of should be at home, and that just isn't the case anymore.
No, no. And it sounds like, because other sort of family businesses, I guess you could say, husband-wife teams I've spoken to, I think that's the hardest part is identifying which lane is the best lane to play in, and then sticking to it, right? And the ones that can do that are the ones that can be successful because you both respect each other and let each other get on with what you're good at, I suppose.
Yeah, what you
Would
need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agree with that?
absolutely.
Very nice, very nice. And so, I love the fact women in the business, that's nice too. And with I guess, the lack of staffing going forward, does that affect you guys per se, or like for future growth and the franchise growth, that sort of thing? Does that come into play, or is it,
So you meaning like the labor challenges that we're having out in the industry at the moment?
yeah,
Yeah, look, we have a couple of head office owned areas, and so we have direct employees in those areas. So I totally understand what you're saying. But yeah, with the franchisees, obviously they then have their business that they control. So they're able to put on employees if they like, or some of them just do all the jobs themselves. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely see that in the market that there is skill shortages out there in the trades.
yeah, yeah, it's hard. Although with the Olympics coming up and everything, I don't think you guys are going to be short of, or your franchisees, short of work, that's for sure. Thank goodness.
Yeah,
You're in
no.
the right
No,
industry.
it is. Yeah, and look, it's getting busier and busier. The code, the National Construction Code changed a couple of years ago. Bringing in high energy like saving ratings, which has been good for us because the glass they're using now is double glazed. It's very expensive. It's got soft coatings on them that damage really easily. So yeah,
Oh,
we
good.
have
Yeah.
a product that can protect those and save builders potentially thousands.
Oh, that's very handy.
Mm.
Did you foresee that when you were planning?
No, 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 no. That only changed a couple of years ago. I mean, obviously, we saw the damage that was being done to glass and, bathtubs and things like that in the
Mm.
beginning and wanted to prevent that. But yeah.
Yeah, nice. And it sounds like diversification is something that you guys are quite involved with. Are there some other brands that sort of feed off Goop Guys? Do you still have
Yeah,
the cleaning
so
company?
no, we sold that when Goop started getting really busy. We sold that. The people that brought it from us, Kim and Ian, so it's Dustbusters Queensland, they were actually at our 25th party
Oh,
last year
lovely.
and they're still going. So yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, so no, we obviously we manufacture the product here
Mm.
in Caloundra on the Sunshine Coast. So it's all Australian made. Gets manufactured from our, like Goop manufacturing company, and then we feed it into Goop Guys, which is our franchise operation.
Mhm.
And then we now have a retail division, which is our
Oh,
Blue Dog protective coatings. So that one goes to, like Mitre 10s, hardware and general place, those kind of places. Yeah. So that came about just during COVID, actually.
ah,
Yeah.
smart. You
COVID
have to keep,
changed the way you do things.
yeah, well, the opportunities pop up and you've got to take them, don't you? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Because so I was going to ask you that, is there some sort of retail direct to the public? And so that's
Yeah.
how you do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's good.
that's like a, DIY kind of home
Yeah.
reno,
Yeah.
fixing your kitchen or whatever yourself kind of deal.
Perfect. Perfect. And how is obviously manufacturing here in Australia, the joy? Share some of the challenges that have come from that, apart from getting no support from the government. No, just
Yeah.
delete that bit.
No, that's okay. So look, I think again we've been very lucky. We started slow, and I don't know. I see some of these companies that get really big really fast, and then they struggle with a lot of things. But and not deliberately. I have to say I'm not that smart, but we have done everything, like just a little bit. And maybe it's just because I'm cautious, but it's like, okay, we'll just test the waters here, and then we'll test it here, and then we'll rather than kind of go all in at once. And so
Okay.
we haven't really had too many issues in the manufacturing because as we scaled, we go, okay, we're about to, move up to the next level. We need a bigger mixing tank or we need to implement automation with the pumping. And we've managed to kind of keep ahead of that at this point.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Oh,
we've
that's
just
interesting. So would you say then, like when you're planning, do you plan how far in advance are you sort of strategic planning, I guess, your next moves? Is it a 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 1 year?
look, we have we have annual meeting days with the leadership team, and then obviously we have we have our weekly, our quarterly, and our yearly. Any big moves, we kind of aim for, a 6 to 12 month runway for anything, really big. So, for instance, we've literally just had installed massive tanks out the front as holding tanks for resin so that we are not holding small, so it makes sense. But we get them in IBCs, we get one of our resins in these 1,000 litre plastic tubs. But we're trying to be environmentally conscious and we're trying to use less plastic and stuff like that. So we can instead get this shipped in a big, I think wine cask, for want of a better word, but this big flagon type thing. And then it gets put straight in the mixing tank so that we don't have 100 plastic tanks that have to be disposed of somehow.
Nice. And then what do you do with that big tank? The big wine cask?
That does have to be taken
Yeah.
to the dump.
But it's
Yes,
just not a million. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah. So it sounds like you guys are very agile. So you sort of you see opportunities because 6 to 12 months is actually quite quick, I would think.
yeah.
To do something big like that. So
We're also
I suppose
very
you've got to keep
impatient.
you also nice.
Decide we want something and we're like, okay, how are we doing this? Yeah.
Now let me just clarify that. We or you
Actually, on that, we're both pretty impatient, I've got to
are
say.
you? Okay.
Yeah. That we have in common. We're like, no, this is a great idea. We need to do this. How we make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's excellent. I suppose, though, in business, we have to do that. Like,
Mm.
especially since COVID, everything has really changed so much and it is changing so often. Love to hear for those people listening, I guess you mentioned about testing the water. Is there any sort of process you go through in order to do that? Like, or is it just sort of constantly asking yourself questions, or everybody comes in and asks all the questions? How, to.
I think depending on what we're talking about is we first kind of ask the questions ourselves. We do, like a little kind of pros and cons type thing. We'll then bring the team in and go, okay, what do you think about this
Nice.
idea? Because quite often, because they're like removed a little bit, they can see things that you can't when you're right in it.
Yes.
And then we'll go out into the market and we'll talk to, our suppliers or our customers or, depending on what we're talking about and ask them and get feedback from them. And we have a lot of great mentors out there as well that, we can kind of go to and ask questions and see what they sort of say and then we'll make a case for it from there.
Nice. And you mentioned the mentors. I was going to ask you that. Like, so you guys have some sort of, I don't know, do you have a board or, you'll go to different groups or anything like that to help with ideas and handle the stress of running business?
Plenty of that.
The joys. Yes.
Yeah, look, over the years, there's been, lots of different mentors from, depending on what sort of space we're in at the time would depend on who we kind of outsource in that sort of role.
Nice.
Generally speaking, in here, we don't have a board of directors. Shane and I are sole directors. Our children, however, coming in this year, and they'll be made directors as well. Yeah, so our daughter's 33 and our son is 30. And yeah,
That's
so
exciting.
they're coming in kind of at that other end now where we're like, maybe it's time for you to take the reins a little
Succession
bit.
planning. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's actually the big chat about that is next week, actually. So we're getting close.
And when I think about it, 25 years, so they would have only been young, 5 and 7 when you started.
They were young.
So they've grown up pretty much with you guys running the business. So are they amazing human beings, I would imagine?
Oh, well, I mean, I think so, but I'm slightly biased. Yeah, so Jordan only turned 30 last week. And he does all the manufacturing here. So he's been running that department for about 10 years now. And our daughter, Crystal, she's got a franchise herself. So she owns the Mornington Peninsula franchise in Victoria. Yeah. And she runs that. So I think she's in her 11th year with that one, actually. So, yeah. And,
that's so inspiring.
And she's given us two babies, two little grandbabies. So that's pretty exciting too.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good to hear because quite often I think a lot of us mums out there, when we go into business, we feel guilty and all that sort of thing. And it's not till the kids do grow up and show us how fantastic they are from so young. I know mine are the same, that we can sort of pat ourselves on the back and go. So I think that's a good message to share to other mums out there who are involved in business, because they do turn out fabulously. And I think they do because they watch our exceptional work ethic and all that sort of thing.
But also I think, I feel like as a working parent and, some days you're doing 10 or 12 hours a day and that is hard when you've got young children. But my thing was always this period of time, between 5:30 and 7:30 when they're doing homework, having dinner, this is your time and this is where I'll spend quality 2 hours with you.
Nice.
I think that, because I did get that a lot because I was a young mum and I got that a lot that, I was neglecting my children and, these stay-at-home mums. But then I look back and I think I would never have been a good mum if I had stayed home all day with them. I think I was a much better mother by having that separate work life thing. And, I think they turned out okay.
They obviously did. They sound phenomenal. Wow. So now tell me, is there any state amongst your franchisees, well, it could be a bit biased now because of Crystal, any states that are doing better than other states in the selling of your products? I'm just interested to know.
Look, it comes down to the type of person you have as a franchisee. So in the early days, setting up a franchise system is expensive and time consuming. And so those first few, you're like, yep, I'll take you. Yep, I'll take you. And I mean, they always say in the franchising world, the first 10 you get are the first 10 you want to get rid of.
Out, yeah.
I can almost vouch for that. I still
Wow.
have one of the originals, and he's in Melbourne, and he does very well. But
Okay.
it's what he does that makes him and his
Ye-
business as good as it is.
Yes. Relationships. What does he do?
He works at it. He
Yeah.
doesn't just sit there waiting for the phone to ring. When he first started, he did in the first 12 months, he came to us and he said, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I don't think I can do this. This is not working. This is not. And well, how do I go about selling? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's have a look at this. And then he went to his accountant, and his accountant said, why would you want to sell it? Just get out there, learn the things you don't know, and do the thing. And so he did. He got himself a sales and marketing coach. He did some cash flow courses through the accountant, and he now has, $1 million business in
Oh, fabulous.
Victoria. And yeah, he's built those relationships with all his customers, and he does really well. So he's kind of like the model franchisee, I guess. But don't get me wrong, we do have our issues because he's a very strong, dominant man.
Yeah.
But he does what needs to be done, and the results speak for themselves.
I think, we've worked with a lot of franchises. And I think sometimes people might think they're buying the franchise and therefore,
It worked.
that's it. Where's my millions? It's a bit like marketing, actually. Or going to the gym. Just because you buy the membership doesn't mean that you've lost 6 kilos, damn it.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, no, so that's some really good advice for people who are thinking of going into franchising. That whilst your processes and systems and the supports are amazing, you do still have to put that effort into building your relationships and getting out there and doing what needs to be done, just like any other business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a
Yeah.
big advocate, especially now, for communication, because I think that's where these things fall down. Where anything, if we don't communicate properly to our franchisees, if they don't communicate properly to their customers, if we don't communicate properly to our team, or vice versa. So I think communication, and I even see it with our kids, they do all this rather than pick up the phone and talk to someone. I go, just pick the phone up.
Pick up the phone.
It's like, I go, you just spent 20 minutes going back and forth trying to get an answer on something that you literally could have had in 30 seconds.
Does my head in.
No. Oh, I thought I was just old.
That's interesting, though. There is actually a stat that says between 12 to 43 that over 65% of people are petrified of picking up the phone. It's an actual stat.
Yeah.
And I know, I see it and I'm like,
No.
must be getting old.
But I think maybe that's something the schools need to look at. Maybe they need to put a communication piece in there. I don't know. Maybe algebra is really not necessary for everybody, but communication is. Let's learn how to talk to each other, even just in relationships. It's something that I think you have to work at.
I think that's a very good point because particularly this year, I just did a talk recently and it was on trust, connection, and the difference as in showing your value. And it was fascinating. One of the biggest things when the market and the economy is a bit uncertain, which it is with the interest rates and the staff shortages and the wars and God knows, all the crap going on, that people need to feel certain. And I think what you're saying is that communication piece and communicating often and openly and honestly and authentically can, bridge that gap to stop the uncertainty. It's a really, it's a really good point, that one.
It's that human connection, like we crave it. We need that human connection, that one-on-one.
Yes. But particularly in business and particularly when people are worrying about their money and spending it and what am I going to get for it and am I going to get ripped off and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You want, it's easy to sell it, but you also got to have that whole customer experience piece, right? It sounds like you guys do that quite well. Do you have like courses or is that a whole piece within your franchise system to help people?
Yes. So we do a lot of work with a company on the Gold Coast called Swish Sales and Communication Coaching.
I know the guys at Swish. Yes. Fabulous. Yes.
Yeah, so we incorporate a lot of their sort of lessons and teachings in here. All our franchisees go through the academy that Ryan has. help with their sales and communication. And then we've got all the toolkits and processes from here that they can then, match up and go out there and do that.
Nice, nice. I'm trying to get Ryan as one of my Connection Central guests. Actually, he's not answering me. So Ryan, if you're watching this,
Well, I'm seeing him on Wednesday, so I'll let him know. I will.
It would be fabulous for all of our people. That's awesome. So we're almost coming to the end. See how quickly that went? So I guess I'm going to get you actually to give me 3 because you've already spoken about a few great things today. But for businesses, let's have 2 things actually. For franchisees who are looking to do better out there in the market, what are a couple of things that you would suggest to them to help them grow their business, first of all?
Okay. So the first thing is and I say this with love and intent, get off your backside. You need to talk to people. You need to get your face and your name and your brand. We talk about personal branding. People need to know who you are. They need to know that you're there. We don't have yellow pages anymore, but we have social media everywhere you look. You need that. That's one of my big gripes with them is that they just sit at home and then want to know why that phone's not ringing. And
that's every business, not just.
People need to know you're there. You can't sell a secret.
Can't sell a secret. Perfect.
Yeah. So that one, but also get help in those areas that you're not genius in. So, for me, it was sales. I'm terrified to talk to people. If I knew them and had a relationship with them, that's fine. But to walk into a room and network, terrified, absolutely terrified. And that's where Ryan in the last 3 years has really helped. Like I said to you before, 2 years ago, I would not be the one doing this. I would be making Shane do it. I'd be like, no, you have to do it. You have to do it. So get help in those areas. If it's finances, if you don't know how to do your bookkeeping, get a bookkeeper in. If you don't know how to do your marketing, pay someone to do your social media. Like there's so many people out there and it doesn't cost a lot. Get people to help you fill the gaps. Don't try and do it all yourself.
I think that's the perfect way to finish actually, because on that sentence, so get people to fill the gaps. I love it. It's been an absolute pleasure. And look at all the gold that you have shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing where you guys go in the future.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Michelle.
Thanks, Kirstee.
Bye.
Bye.